Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to get started soon. We're still some health directors coming in. We really appreciate you taking this time to be with us today. As we know, all of the situations that are going on in the community right now. So we wanted to bring in Merle Williams. I had the chance to listen to her at a FNHDA Mindful Monday and reached out to her and asked if she would pick up our wellness webinar. And we've turned this particular webinar into a meeting, so it's more interactive with the health directors. And feel free, no pressure, feel free to share your video if you want. We have the chat. We have the chat button if you have any questions or want any feedback. We also have Vanessa with us. She is the one of the FNHDA board members from the island. So Vanessa is going to open us up and then we will pass it to Merle. So again, thank you everybody for being here today. And I'll pass it off to Vanessa. I'm sorry, Vanessa, you're on mute.
There we go. Sometimes the button just don't want to work. Thank you, Karen. So good morning. It's good to see you all. Welcome to today's wellness webinar hosted by the First Nations Health Directors Association. I would like to acknowledge all of the many traditional territories on which we are collectively gathering today. And I would like to remind the participants that we are recording this webinar for those who are unable to join us today. I am currently lucky to work, live, and play on the unceded traditional territory of the Hupetchisut First Nations here in Port Alberni. My name is Vanessa Charlong. I am the health director for the Hupetchisut First Nation, and I am proud to serve the Nuchanuth tribes here on Vancouver Island. I have been a board member since 2014, and I'm one of 3 members that serve the Vancouver Island. So your board of directors acknowledges how difficult the recent announcements of the found children in the sites of the former residential schools has been for all the First Nations people in BC. This news on top of the pandemic, the racism in healthcare report, and now the forest fires can bring emotions, memories, and traumas to the surface. As health directors, we know that you are balancing managing your own response with providing support to your community. We are here to support you. So today we are joined by Merle Williams. She is a Haida medicine woman from Old Masset on Haida Gwaii. Her work is very spiritual in nature and it focuses on loss, grief, and chronic pain. Merle has been teaching for over 25 years, working to help people move through their pain, physical, mental, and spiritual. She is guided by the Creator and does not claim the work to be solely done by herself. Merle is also guided by the elements within Mother Earth, which serve as her source of strength. There will be an opportunity to ask questions following the presentation, so please raise your hand in your reactions box or type the question into the chat box if you'd like. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to hearing more from her about her teachings, so I will hand it over to you, Merle. And if you would please take a moment to tell us a little more about yourself before you get started. Thank you. Chu.
I give thanks for the invitation, and I just want to open with one of my Haida songs to acknowledge the ancestors and the loved ones that are guiding me in this way today. Hey ah ha ha you he ah hey ha hey ah you he hey oh hey Salana Blanga Kitlog and Digringela Salana Hawa all my relations. I'm a mother of 4. Well, actually a mother of many. I'm known as Mama Merle, and I've been known as Auntie Merle in other workplaces. And when I did some work with First Nations Health Authority with the the naloxone naloxone training for many years. And I started this work about 25 or 30 years ago. Before that, I was a school teacher, and I retired from that when I turned 55. So I've been at this full time since then. And I really enjoy doing this work. I was ready to get into this work when I joined a task force for Aboriginal education many years ago, and ended up working for a job that I created for the BCTF for my last 5 years of my career. So I've got to know a lot of people across the world in my work, and I have 3 boys, 3 sons and 1 daughter, and I now have 2 grandchildren. So my family has grown immensely, especially within the last couple of years. So I've done a lot of work around the world with the 13 Indigenous grandmothers. I did some healing work with them over the times that I gathered with them. And I also have traveled extensively on my own just to discover parts of the world and the kinds of things that people need around the world, and what we've also been working on. So, it's just been an eye-opener for me, and hence the work has become really strong. And today I come with humility and love and light and healing to talk about some of the things that we're faced with during this time. It's a very introspective time for many of us, as we haven't been able to really visit with one another. We haven't been able to love our families at the level that we normally do. And it's been hard on all of us, spiritually, mentally, physically. And, there's a lot of things that we've been through during this time: the loss of loved ones, the loss of abilities to do things that we normally do. So it's a mourning time as well. So it's going to take some time to really find ways to reconnect ourselves as a society and as a community. I find that people have a lot of anxiety, because they're not used to being around so many people. So I think for myself personally, the time was really good for me because I was able to discover different ways of working with people. And, Zoom isn't ideal, and Party House on Facebook isn't ideal, but it connected me to a lot of people during this time. And I didn't connect with a lot of people at first because I was just figuring things out. And I just find that once you reach out, it's beautiful, but a lot of people were at a point where they weren't even reaching out with the phone. So I found that really odd too, that we weren't cut off the phone, but people cut themselves off using the phone as often as they used to. So that was really interesting to me as well. So now, the collective, looking at how we heal ourselves in this time, and how we work towards moving forward from the time we spent the last year and a half or more in some cases. A lot of the things that I like to do is I like to give thanks for all the things that I have. And people think that prayer is praying to a God, but it's actually just giving thanks for everything it is that you have in your life and the things that you look forward to. When you have your ceremonies for the full moon, the new moon, you just give thanks for everything that it is, and you put forward your wishes of what you want and what you desire. And if we didn't have that in life, we wouldn't be really able to move forward. It's important to have those dreams. If we quit dreaming, that's when our life becomes dull and it's almost like we're giving up. So it's really important to have those dreams. And at this time, it's good to write out what it is you want and what you desire, especially this powerful time, the 24th, for some reason, around full moon is going to be the most powerful time. There's going to be a lot of different shifts happening for people individually. Good shifts where if you accept the new energy, and that's projecting from the solar life, you know, you'll be able to gain some energy from that. Part of our lives, a big part of our lives as First Nations people, Indian people, I like to call myself an Indian still. I grew up like that, and it's hard to change how they call me. So it's really important for me to connect with Mother Earth, to find that connection, you know, to go on Mother Earth with the bare feet and to raise my arms up to allow the light to come within me and to give thanks. Each day, 3 times a day, I like to do that. And that really gives me the energy to carry on. And if I wasn't doing that in the first part of the pandemic, and I was really suffering a lot. And of course, I do a lot of reading and I connect with my sisters quite a lot. So they remind me of the tools that we have right here in our backyard, you know, to make use of the solar energy, to make use of the, you know, the trees and the life form around us, to connect with Mother Earth, putting your feet on Mother Earth so you can get that energy, that chi moving through you, that life form. So, you know, that you look after yourself first before you could help anybody else. So that was the thing that was coming strong and true for me, is that you connect and you look after yourself first, and then you can have that connection with loved ones that need it. So it took me a year to really source what it was that I needed to be doing for myself during that time. So it's now like coming into a new world, and it's like, what am I able to do? Like someone was saying earlier about the masks, what am I to do, you know? And it's important to recognize those feelings. If you feel comfortable wearing a mask still, that's what you do. It's only up to you. It's your body, your mind, your spirit. You look after yourself. And the judgments are left for those that aren't ready to move forward in a good way. And some of the things that I also like to do is I like to go into the ocean to cleanse off, to get rid of some of the things that don't serve me anymore. And you go into the ocean and you dunk 4 times for each direction with a little prayer, giving thanks for what it is you want to give thanks for. And then you can swim if you want to, and just have a little bit of fun before you come out swimming in the water. And then when you're done, you walk to the shoreline, but you don't come out. You come out backwards. And I suggest that you wear some of the water shoes, because it's easier to walk on the pebbles then. And then you walk out and let everything you left in the ocean, watch it so it doesn't come back on you. If you're able to, in an ocean near you. Not all waters are clean. And if you can't go in the ocean, just say a prayer for the water so that it can be cleansed. I give thanks for you. You'll see the water rippling back towards you. The water reacts to you when you give thanks for the water. The grieving part of it, there's no new things about grieving. It's just how you look after yourself during this time. You let go of the tears that come, because if you don't let go of those tears, then it can turn into a lot of different other things in your body. We were gifted with tears so that it could cleanse the toxins out of us. And you notice your eyes sting after you cry. That's because those toxins, some of them are powerful. it's really important to look after yourself in that way, and look after all things in relation to that, looking after your tears so that you're, that you can't be harmed in any way. Look after your Kleenex. It's all about looking after yourself. So making sure those Kleenex are kept and recycled in some way. It's also, there's many stages, of course, for grieving and loss. Grieving and loss doesn't always necessarily mean the loss of a loved one. It could mean the breakup of a friendship, a marriage. It could be the loss of having certain things in your life. For me, it's a loss of travel, and it's the loss of connectedness. It's the loss of a way of life. It's a loss of land. There's a lot of things that it encompasses. And I understand that there's a lot of grief right now due to so many things. One of them is the fires. I went up to Kamloops and sat with families who lost everything. And with that, you just have to be really mindful of what they're going through, and be as gentle as you can when working with them. Everybody still struggles with other issues during this time too, with the alcohol addiction, the drugs, and the loss of family support, all the intergenerational traumas that they were living with to begin with, and now you have fire on top of it. So it's they live in fear. So it's a time to help them release that fear and to be able to live a life in a good way. It's going to take some time for those people to find peace in their hearts again. And even for us, the ones that work with these families, these loved ones, it's really difficult to not feel their pain. We're all human beings. And if you need to take a moment, do let your tears come, because it's very difficult to sit and listen to somebody. You could be picking up on their energies, or you just have your own tears because you feel so bad. So with the fire victims, they've lost their home, they've lost all their memories that they've collected over time. And one day they'll look at it as a fresh start, a new beginning, but they're not ready for that yet. It's going to take a long time to feel that way, especially Lytton. They've lost their whole community. So just being mindful of all those people that lost their homes and their whole community, just keeping them in your thoughts and prayers. And the ones I want to focus on today that have been really lost through so much over the last year and a half was the community that struggles with alcoholism and drugs. The people who are in a pandemic or epidemic of their own with the tainted drugs. It seems that on top of all the hurts that have already been cast upon us as a people, we have the epidemic of overdoses and loss in the communities. And we've had our share here in Tuasa, our small little community. So I understand how deeply it hits our people and how it hits the workers, because when there's a loss, it's somebody you've worked with. So it's painful. So it's just acknowledging your own pain as workers. And if you don't have that pain, then you must be hiding it somewhere. It's not good to hide that in your body anywhere, because it'll come out somewhere along the line, and sometimes it comes out in illness. So it's really important to address our emotions, and that's one of the things that I really have to focus on with my own community and my own children, is addressing the silence that has gone on for too long. And that's with the residential school survivors, thrivers, and with the Indian Day School, such as myself, the Indian Day School attendees, the horrific treatments throughout our education programs, the racism, and the endless hatred towards our people, the practice dentistry, the pharmaceutical practices, testing us with TB medications, all those things that our people have been subjected to since I was born, the immunizations, all of those things, is really difficult for our community members. I'm only one person that's able to talk about these kinds of things. Lots of the people have been subjected to so much hurt, ridicule, and pain from the historic traumas we've endured. So I find it imperative to be able to address some of these things that are the 60 scoop as well, that our people have really suffered with the ministry. It's just a lot of things that we've been subjected to, that I think health directors and other members of the health teams throughout the province in Canada really need to find ways of helping our people. If you could imagine being silenced. My father went to residential school in Kokalitsa, and he was silenced. He didn't tell us anything. Now I find that I didn't speak to my own children. I didn't think it was really that important until these beautiful children came through for us to have our voice. We spoke of things before, but not at the magnitude that we are able to now. I haven't really spoken to my children about my own traumas as a child, as an adult. I didn't even know how to talk to them about their own racism that they face as children. I wasn't quite sure how to deal with it. And now they have their own sufferings. And, you know, they're good people. None of my children are suffering really so deeply that we can't have a discussion about these things. But it's almost at a place where we're at a place where we need to make that change. We need to have that turning point of looking back and cleaning up the generational trauma that has affected our families. I don't want my grandchildren to be wondering what happened and why they feel so hurt deeply inside, because it's passed on from generation to generation unless we clean it up. And I was fortunate enough that my late father wanted us to have an education. And I was so happy when I graduated from grade 12. And he said, Merle, I was the first one out of my family to finish. We all went to grade 12, but I was the first one to finish. And out of 6 kids. And he said to me, Merle, you have to go to university. There's no question about that. He said, if you're going to live in this world, you're going to have to be educated. So I was blessed with that. so I kind of digressed away from the wellness part of it, but I just wanted you to know a little bit about a present day story. That's an ongoing generational thing that needs to continue to grow and to heal. And as health directors and as people who are looking after communities in a healthy way, we have to be considerate of all these things and to be gentle and to find solutions and to have discussions and to figure out what it is we need to do to move forward. That's what I'm doing in our community. What is it we need? Do we need to talk about this? Do we need to reach out to what few elders we have left? Do we need to get in guest speakers to talk about some of the things that we need to do to make change for a positive life from now on? But on top of all that, we're dealing with the generational trauma of flare-outs, which are the drugs, the alcohol, lack of communication, not knowing how to talk to your children, family-oriented issues that are ongoing. And I know that these things are gonna take a long time, and we want it now. But when we think about the voices just being heard for the first time, really, truly, for the first time, even though many stories have been told, those children that woke us up, the first 215 from Kamloops, and then across Canada a little at a time. And in fact, when I was in Kamloops, they found more. They unveiled more. So, it's bigger than I imagined. And I just pray that Canada takes the responsibility for this genocide, that they don't try to turn it into a new word, that we call it like it is, so that we could address all our hurts and that we could really learn how to walk together as a people on this earth, because that's necessary for us to continue to live on this earth. Because if we keep living the way we do, our lives aren't going to be easy here. We're going to be fighting for air. We're going to be fighting for water, even food and clothing. Sustainability is important. Growing your own food is important. I followed 13 Indigenous grandmothers who were put together to counsel the world on these issues. And I went to many places in the world and prayed with these grandmothers. And man, were they ever full of life. Did they ever give us beautiful teachings that we could carry forward? And I was lucky enough to meet them all and for them to trust me, to put my hands on them, to help them draw out some of the pain. And I also worked with a group from Guatemala with Eric Gonzalez and prayed with him in Northern California and went to Guatemala to have prayer and connect with the earth. It was a beautiful experience. And if we can incorporate natural things into our workplaces, we're going to be that much better off. If we have plants, if we could have a day where we go out to the park and we can have a meeting in the park, or if we can just be in nature when we do some of the work, then we're not all feeling shut in, because we need nature in order for us to know what it is we need to be doing next. A lot of our people that are addicted, they live outdoors, and they're a lot of them have a lot to tell us. And I've worked with them for many years, and the love within every one of them is so deep. And that, I don't know what it is we need to be doing, but I know that love prevails over so much. and that communication is vital. We have to really reach out and learn what it is people really need. Sometimes they think it's material things, but all they might need is somebody's ear. It's a very sensitive time right now. People are just going to have to get used to being together again. And I say, look after yourself. You make sure you connect with Mother Earth. You drink plenty of fluids. You eat healthy by eating leafy greens. You go for walks, keep up your body strength. You keep your minds quiet, even just for a few minutes. You welcome in the rays of the sunlight into your being. And you smile and you laugh and you have enjoyment with people in your home or your neighborhood. It's important to make sure that you wash your body. If you had really busy days at work, very contentious meetings, then you can have a shower right after. Make sure it's a cold shower, and then let your body let go of all those things that aren't yours. Because when someone is projecting and getting angry, or is really stating some good facts that really want it to hit home, and or if you're arguing about money, about certain things for programs, and you make sure that you cleanse yourself, and then you're ready to face your family, or else you bring it home with you, and that's how you treat your family. And when you cook your food, do it with love, so that when you eat it and you feed your family, they're feeling that love, they're feeling that good energy. Because one time I was working in the city, and I came home, and my husband, he was out by fire with his friends and just having a good time. I come home and he didn't get the food ready for the kids, so I come upstairs and I'm throwing the food around and throwing the meat, chopping it up, and I'm mad. And then when supper was ready, I called him and the kids, and they came to eat, and everybody just started getting mad at each other and left the table. Nobody even enjoyed the meal, and it was a waste anyway. I would have been better off to order pizza for my kids. At least they would have been happy if the cook was happy at the pizza place. So I try to help people, when they're grieving, and I just listen to them. I try not to offer too much unless they ask me, and then I will engage with them. But normally when I'm talking to somebody who's grieving, I listen to them, and then, I engage a little bit, but mostly it's giving them that ear. Because a lot of times, with grieving, there's so many different things you go through. You go through the anger, you go through resentment, you just unbelieving, all those things that come with grief and loss. So it's basically just being that ear. And with the healing thing, I can't really take away their grief. That's why I only listen. But when it's chronic pain, I can use different things to help me, and one of them is crystals. And I use crystals. This is my direct link to Creator, my phone, and I use this crystal to help draw out some of the pain that some of the people might be suffering. So I really try to use tools to help me with people, for them to be comfortable in talking with me. Sometimes it's light touch, but with pandemic, I never touched anybody, but I did talk with people on the phone, and I did use tools in front of me on a screen to help people to move through things. So there's lots of different ways the modern medicine woman could use to help people through with their journey, with their healing. and it's very important, important work. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'm quite open to anybody who wants to ask anything at this point. Before I carry on, is there anybody who wants to ask anything? Okay, without further ado then, I'm just going to carry on with some of the things that I find really useful with people, is to have a check-in and to say, okay, what is it today? We're going to talk about the impact of the children that rose to the light in Kamloops. And we're going to just talk about, the things that it opened up for many people. And you could go around and ask everybody, like, how are you, why are you here at the circle? Is there something that you want to bring forward and in the circle? And a lot of times people would just say, I came because my mom was a residential school survivor, or I'm here because my grandfather was. And you just go around and then you say, okay, I just want you to, you could do another round and talk about what do you do to make yourself feel better when you're feeling traumatized by news? Some people might take a bath, some people might smudge, some people might go for a walk, some people might make a good meal. Some people might talk on the phone with other people. And then, and you go around the circle, and then the circle, the final one is, what is it, one word that you felt from being here today? And it could be love, it could be guidance, it could be clarity, it could be rejuvenation. There's a lot of things that people gain from this. So I just feel that it's really important to have those opportunities to engage as health directors too, about how you feel about these kinds of things, because you yourselves are frontline workers that deal with a whole gamut of things, from community loss to Canadian loss. Like, all these things are part of what you do. And even just the fact that we have to take on the responsibility of all these tragic events. So hopefully you can build in some really good events that will be memorable for these people who have suffered loss. One of the things that our community did was to host a beautiful circle when we first heard the news a few days after, because a lot of people were feeling really traumatized and sad. So that really lifted them up, being able to leave some of their sad feelings in the circle with a cedar. And then for July 1st, to remember those children, we had a walk. And, we were really blessed to have our outside community waiting for us outside the gate of our community to join us on our walk. There was 200 people. And it was a real blessing to see that, those people are supporting us on how they feel about what has transpired. And we had our walk, and then we ended up having a community barbecue that the police put together for us. Our community police put together for us. Once our chief spoke, he said, okay, you're all invited to come back to our chief, Kenny Baird. He says, you're all welcome to come back to our community and have a bite to eat with us. And so the police had to go and do some extra shopping because they were prepared for 75 people. So they had to go and double their their order of food and drinks for the outside community who were joining us. And it turned out to be a real beautiful day. So, we know we have the outside support, and we want to keep that alive. We want to keep working and engaging with others so that we can get through this together. We find that if we have other people working with us, it's that much easier. It's easier for us to get through these times. I think that as health directors, there's a lot of positive actions that can be taken to strengthen the community members that you work with. By looking in the community and helping out individuals right within the community that need your help and support. And if they need extra stuff, extra help, reach out to other community members. Say, we have a certain member that really needs some support at this time. They lost their job, they don't have an income right now, and they need some food, or they need some diapers, or they need, whatever you think they might need. And that's we've done that in our community. When somebody's just feeling down, we have what we call it's supposed to be just a wellness box to put together for somebody that you really care about that's going through a rough time, and put in things that you think will help them, like chocolate and bath bombs, and maybe a favorite soda or something like that. Different things, a candle, just things that might make them happy, some candies, whatever. And that just helps lift them up. And you could do that in your office if you feel somebody's going through a rough time, you do the same thing. One of the things that I'm being guided to talk about is about the people that are suffering from the fires. They've had a lot of support, but I think even just writing letters of support to their community, and maybe I know a lot of them are at Camp Hope right now from Lytton. So they were moved from Kamloops to Lytton, or from Kamloops to Hope, in this campground, so more of them could stay together and have their own little cabin. So they've moved quite a few families there. So you could always, in your families, in your own areas, have a prayer for those loved ones that need that good energy, so that good things can happen for Lytton. A real tragic thing to lose your whole community like that, and to be so blessed not to have lost very many lives. I think 2 people. So that's pretty amazing for such a horrific event that happened there. So you can always pick a family to support from your community to send, things that they might need. I don't know if there's any sites. I don't know any of the sites that are open to those kinds of things. But making sure that you're looked after first and foremost, really important. I know personally for myself, I always like to have my family near me when I need the support. And they're always quite willing to come forward and to help me out. And some of my kids could recognize when I need, they might say, well, you're not doing too well today, I could tell. And I'm in denial and saying, oh, I'm fine. And they go, no, Mom, you better go back outside and smudge yourself off before you come in. And one of my sons said, it's like Linus, all these things all around you. So he said, make sure you're cleansed off before you come in, because you make us feel that way when you come in. You make us all upset and anxious. So I've learned from my own children, about energy and how you can transfer things like that you are faced with in a day. So just making sure you cleanse off before you go home. A lot of the treasures that we hold dear to us are our families, and learning how to ensure that their safety comes first when you do this frontline work. Making sure that if you're having issues in your office or issues in the workforce somewhere, that at least you leave it hanging outside the door of your office and not bring it home. Because quite often we think, just because the day ends, lots of us bring the work home because we never get it done at work. But we have to look after ourselves and separate that work life from our personal life. If we don't, we'll lose sight of who our families are and what their real needs are. So that's why it's really important to be like those the longhouse dwellers, our families that lived in the longhouse. We had a nail outside the door, to bring any of those anxieties or bad words or bad thoughts into the place. So you hang your pack on the nail before you go in, and then it's your true spirit that's inside. So it's the same thing when you work. You can make sure that you look after yourself. If you find yourself packing your bag home, put it on the nail outside of your own home. Leave it there before you go inside. Very important. Some of you might have a sanctuary where you can go and rejuvenate yourself. It could be your garden. It could be a public garden. It could be the beach. It could be by a waterfall, a creek. It could be just under a tree in your yard. It could be on a bench where no one knows you. And I already talked about feelings. It's really important to address those feelings, because if we don't address those feelings, it turns into the stress. And stress is a real killer. It really can harm your body. I've worked with people. I think I want to relay a couple of stories about people I've worked on from the survivors of residential school, which I like to call thrivers, because man, have they ever made it in life. I worked with this one woman, and she was on my chair. I have a massage chair that I used to lug around, and she was forward on it, and my guide told me to put my 2 fingers like this on her neck, at the base of her neck. And when I did that, she went into this deep cry. She cried and cried really deep from her solar plex, deep, deep, deep guttural cry. And this went on for 10 minutes or more. And when she was finally done, she looked 20 years younger or more. And she looked up and she smiled at me, and we moved to chairs. And I said to her, do you mind me asking you something? And she says, what? And I said, what were those tears all about? Where were they coming from? And she said, well, when I was 6 years old and I was at residential school, it was my first time. I didn't speak much English. And when I spoke, I was so happy when I ran into friends. So I was speaking to them in my language. And then she said, and then the nun grabbed me by my arm, and she started punching me like a rabbit punch. She put her 2 fingers together like this, and she did that on the base of my neck. And she wanted to make me cry, because she said, you don't speak that language anymore. And she said every time she caught her speaking, that's what she did to her. And every time she did that to her. She said, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to hold that in. I'm not going to cry. And it was when the forgiveness piece came out from the Prime Minister, and they had a big gathering for all the survivors. And that's when she released what she was holding on to for all those years. And when I spoke to her, she said she felt so relieved. Her whole body felt like she could move again, because it sort of froze her in and then held in and made her sick. And she was able to release that. And when her husband came forward to talk to me, he said, thank you so much. She said, he even said she looks like a different person. And it was so amazing. I just cried with her, pure joy for that happening. And recently, this man had been hanging on to his story for a long, long time. And I went to work with him and I sat with him and he said to me, Merle, I heard you were coming. So I thought, gee, when I was talking this morning to my spirit, I said, oh, Merle's coming to, I'm going to talk to somebody today. Something big's coming. So I sat and I talked with him and he said, I've been waiting for you. He said, I felt really like this morning I was going to talk to somebody. Somebody was going to tell me something today. So when I worked on him, I said, okay, what's going on with you? And he says, I never told my story to anybody before, Merle. I'm telling you because I trust you and I know you've been coming to our community. I've always put others before myself, but today I'm ready. So we went about it in kind of a roundabout way, and he talked about how he left when he was 4 years old, and how he lost that connection with his mother, and things were never really the same with his mother after that, even though he went home. So I said, okay, so what is it that you need? Are you carrying? And he goes, oh, I know, I'm carrying an armor. It's on my back. It's a big metal armor. And it's solid metal. But he said, for some reason, jabs and stabs get through it. He said, I'm really tired of it. I said, do you want to let it go? And he goes, yes. So I said, okay. So I said, are you ready to take it off? And he goes, yes. So I said, on a count of 4, we're going to take it off. He said, okay. And I asked him where he wanted to go, and he told me, and we did that. We pulled it off his back, and then he goes, oh my God, Merle. There's an abalone shell. There's an abalone shell. I see it. It's so beautiful. It's all shiny. It's got all these beautiful colors in it. It's so gorgeous. I said, oh my God, you're the abalone. That's so awesome. And I said to him, I said, do you want to see what's inside? He goes, yeah. So I said, okay, there's a covering that covers over the abalone shell. It's a thin shell that protects the meat, the body. And he said, okay. So I said, we're going to open it slightly. So we're opening it slightly. He goes, oh my God, Merle. He said, there's all these beams of light. They're just shining out. They're just beaming out everywhere. I said, oh my God, you know what? I said, that abalone is you. He goes, really, Merle? That's so beautiful. And he was crying. And then it transferred into, he said, Merle, I'm walking on this path and there's somebody over there. I said, who is it? He said, I don't know. I said, well, open your eyes. Who is it? And he said, oh, that's my mother. I said, oh, that's your mother? Wow, what does she want? Oh, I don't know. I can't look at her. I said, just peek at her, just like you did in the clamshell, just peek. So he peeked. Yeah, it's my mom. She's She's looking at me. I said, could you look at her? And he goes, no, peek at her. So he peeks at her and he peeks at her eyes and goes, oh, she's really looking at me. And I said, well, could you look at her? And he slowly goes from a peek to looking at her. And he looks right in her eyes. And then he says, oh my God, she's trying to say something to me. I said, well, do you want to hear what she's saying? He goes, yeah. And I said, what is she saying to you? And he goes, I can't say it. I said, could you whisper it? He goes, yeah, okay. I love you. What? I love you. I said, what did you say? And each time I said it, he got louder. Finally, he goes, I love you. Oh my God, she loves me. He was just crying. And I said, could you tell her something? And he turned around and goes, yeah, I love you, Mom. And then we slowly came back to where we were on this day. And I said to him, I said, so how are you feeling? He said, oh my God, Merle, I knew something big was coming. When I heard you were coming, I knew something big was going to be told to me, and something big, my mom loves me. And that's all he needed for that day. And that he was feeling this way because of the children. So I said, you know what? The 215 children that went to the light, they're the ones that helped you tell your story today. And he goes, I'm so grateful. And on top of that, he lost his buddy. So that's another reason he was talking to me. And his buddy told him, don't suffer anymore. Face your pain. So that's why he was ready. Because he said my friend wasn't lucky enough to be able to talk himself out of his pain. So, that's what our community members are going through. And that's just one little community. So, there's lots of good stories about how people transform themselves into beautiful beings and can move their life forward in a good way. But it takes time. Sometimes it takes their whole lifetime. My oldest son's father was a residential school attendee in Edmonton. And about 2 weeks before his passing, he went to Edmonton and got to go to the sweat to cleanse himself, and to go to a men's group to talk about the kinds of things that happened at residential school. And he faced it, and he was a happy man for about 2 weeks, and then he passed away. But that's what he needed to do before he passed on to the other world, was to be able to find out about himself, why he was the way he was, not being able to settle down and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really important that if people are willing to listen, to talk about their stories, that you just lend an ear. So any questions, any comments? I'd really appreciate that at this point.
Good morning, Merle.
Good morning.
I love listening to your words. It truly is in the moment as we're going through all this. I don't even know what to call it. With our residential schools, with our trauma, with our members, with ourselves, and my stomach's so sick, and listening to your words, listening to, you know, how to take care of ourselves is hitting my heart nicely, making me feel just a tiny bit better. But I can't get past this angry stage of what happened for 150 years. I just want to why? Selling our kids for $10, burying our children, raping them. Indian hospitals. Like I'm reading about all this in our health director's course, and I'm like, where do we go from here? What do we do? What do we want? What do we, I keep saying, I said, we should be living the first class life. We're living in poverty, poor housing, medical systems, racism. We should be having the most beautiful houses, like the ones in the suburbs. I was driving through a few of those suburbs and I'm like, why don't we have our reserves like that? Nice sidewalks, trees, flowers, beautiful gardens. Instead, we're living in these poor ass houses and trailers, and some communities don't even have running water. And, you know, some of these things just make my stomach so sick. I'm trying not to burn myself out. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of our frontline health directors, health staff are going through the same thing. And thank you for the reminders of, you know, making sure we rest, have our water. Those things I sometimes forget. I just wanted to mention, you know, some of those things, and thank you for reminding me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your feedback. I really appreciate that, because we're not standing alone during these times. We have each other to hold up. And I think we have to move forward and awaken ourselves to the spirits that were gifted to us. And I believe we're in a time, and I don't care anymore who believes me or who thinks I'm crazy, because I've been through this all my life anyway. I've always been a knowing person. I've always known things ahead of time, and I don't care anymore. So I'm going to just say what I feel and what I believe and what I think and know to be true for me. I know that our people, the stories that our people told about moving mountains, about a person turning to stone, about people walking this earth and being able to make things happen, to manifest things right in the middle of nowhere, to be able to you know, do these things, these spiritual things. I've been to many places in the world. One of them was a place in Montana where they're discovering all these different these different things like Stonehenge, prayer sites like that. And there's prayer sites all around the world that have been hidden away from other people. So when I was at this place, it was quite obvious that you could move things with energy. And the whole reason we're dampened down as Native people is because we had that life force within us to have the ability to be able to use that energy in good ways in that way. So when we talk about awakening and about rejuvenating ourselves, that's what it means. It means that we awaken ourselves to what nature has gifted us. And we all have it. It's that connectedness to Earth. You find yourself connected to Mother Earth, living off the plant foods of Mother Earth and nothing of the processed foods. You'll find yourself more alert. You'll find yourself healthier, happier. Because when you eat those potato chips, there's a bag, a big, I don't settle for a small bag when I go for chips. I go for the biggest one and I'll sit there and eat the whole thing. But that's like a sack of potatoes because it's dehydrated. Normally, who could eat that many potatoes before you're sick? So, we have to keep that in perspective too. Like, because it's dehydrated doesn't mean that we could eat a whole bunch. So, just those are things to make you feel better too, so that you're connected and you know what to do next. Because I know what I want to do next year, and I want to talk to as many people as I can about what's going on. I want to have a healing circle with my family to say, how is this affecting you? How did you feel when you heard the news? I know I scrolled by it for 2 days before I actually read anything. I couldn't believe it. So imagine what other people are feeling. Our young ones were saying, I don't know why I feel like this. That's because the loved ones are going up to heaven for the first time. They've been hidden away. Now more of them are being set free. That's setting us free. They gave us permission to be free. And we're not used to that feeling. And we have to learn how to get used to that feeling. Sorry. Come in. Sorry. Just a minute. Sorry. I'm on a Zoom call. Thank you.
Get the dishes, give me 5 trying.
I apologize profusely, but they give us lunch every Tuesday and Thursday. Sorry about that. So yeah, so it's rising up and just keeping that word, keeping it going, because once we let it go, there's no coming back for it. So we really have to keep it alive, keep our story going. It's a live story. We're not a dead people. We're alive, we're thriving, and we're moving forward in a good way. And we will find out what it is we need to address some of the issues you talked about, because, it's time we got that support. And, people often think we want handouts. That's not the case. Our land was stolen from us. We've been grieving for 150 years. Our hunting, everything's decimated because of how everything was set up around us without our permission. And then we were segregated from everybody. So, there's a lot of binding that needs to be unbound, So this is just the beginning, and I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad, but this is just our reality in the communities, how people are feeling. Let's start with that. What are we doing? What are we doing? Is it what the people really want? What do the people want? Has anybody ever asked me that? No. So I find it really enriching to think that these children have given us a voice that I've never had before. I feel the strength that I never had before to be able to, talk about these things freely. They almost killed my dad at residential school, therefore I wouldn't be. What about those poor kids that were buried in the backyards of a school? How many schools do we know today that have graveyards? How many hospitals had graveyards? Oh my goodness. How many of our children didn't make it home? And that's the ceremonies we have to have. I have an auntie that didn't come back from residential school. I don't even know what residential school she was at. So, I think communities, even though they didn't have the residential, maybe they didn't have anybody go missing there, but to have that ceremony to say, this is in honor of the children that didn't make it home. And breathe. That's the other thing I was going to say. Because sometimes for myself, I find myself holding my breath because some of the things are too heavy. So if you breathe through it, along comes the emotions that are behind that breath. There'll be less asthma, less everything once we learn how to breathe. So it's important that we do breathe in the beautiful breath that we have. Are there any other comments that I need to hear? No. Another thing that I find really important is our pets. They take so much energy from us too, like even just petting our dog or cat. And they know how to take care of energy. So you don't mind if you hug your dog up and give it all the energy you had during your work week. Hug it up. The dog will walk away and it'll shake. It'll get rid of it all. It doesn't want to pack your stuff either. So that's why pets are really good too. So I just know when you need reawakening, you use cold water. Make sure you use cold water to rejuvenate your body because it really helps. It really helps you to restart. And people have known that for thousands of years. Our people have passed that down to us. And that's some of the things that we remember is that cold ocean or river bath. You know, and all of us used to have specific dances that we didn't share, spiritual dances that we didn't share with others. And so important to have those. So I don't know if I'm missing out on telling you something that I need to tell you. I'm getting this feeling. One of the things I do know that we really like taking care of medicine, I feel I have to talk about because, you know, a lot of people, they get sweetgrass or they get the smudge sticks and they just leave it on their desk and then they use it to burn. It's spent all week gathering up all the stuff that's around in the air, all the energies of other people and stuff like that. So when you burn it, then the energy of all the other people is going around. So you want to be able to make sure that you have a box for your medicine or a nice bag for your medicine, so it's not doing the work all week and then you use it for smudge. So that's important to take care of your medicine in that way. And you know, you could use any kind of a shell, and if you don't have a shell, you could even use a cast iron little frying pan or something to use your smudge. And you could use a feather, or you could even use your hand if you don't have anything else. There's no right way or wrong way when it comes to cleansing your body with the medicines. One of the most powerful medicine that I came across over time has been the cedar. We had cedar hanging in our government house, and a contentious meeting happened, lots of anger and questions. And I went and I had a women's gathering in there, and there was some cedar still hanging up there. And I touched it, and all of a sudden I felt sick. I felt like I had the flu. And I said to my friends, I said, you guys have to finish decorating. I'll be back. I'll come back. I'm going to go home and have a quick shower and change my clothes. I'll be right back. So I came home, and when I was showering, my Indian said, Merle, cedar is a real powerful medicine. It was hanging in the government house, and it was picking up all the discussions and the anxieties and anger, if you will. And then you touched it, That's why you felt sick. So let it all go down the drain. I said, wow. And that was a big lesson for me. I felt normal right after I had my shower. And then I was able to, you know, tell the government people, you have to change your cedar. You know, it picks up the stuff and you don't handle it without gloves. You put it in a bag and then you could throw it in the ocean, or you could burn it, depending on the weather. So that was a hard lesson. So if you have cedar, it's a very powerful medicine. And if you need to cleanse yourself off, you can just get a little bowl, put some water in it, and dip the branch in the water, and then just put it to cleanse yourself or others. And that really helps. So I find that our own medicines have been gifted to us to share, and for people to know that, you know, you find yourself in a bad mood, it's not necessarily your stuff. You might not even know why you're feeling that way. So go wash your face and hands. That'll help you get out of that mood. Might not even be yours. It might be picking up from a co-worker who didn't have very good sleep, who wants everybody else to feel the same way, not even realizing that he or she is doing that. So all these things are things that you can do that'll help yourself in the moment. So I think I'm done. They've told me that's enough. So if anybody has anything to share or ask or anything, you can do so now before I say my goodbye.
Oh, Merle, we would never tell you. I think we could all listen to you for the whole day. And hopefully you're drinking your water. Yeah, honestly, if anybody has wants to ask a question at this point, we are wrapping up, but I know for myself, you really spoke to so many aspects, especially about the sage and the cedar bundles. And it was me you were speaking to. I had that thought this morning. I looked at 2 different bags and one last night, and I'm like, I haven't burnt anything. So I'm going to get on that. And thank you for the reminder. Sometimes they come in these beautiful packages and I don't want to ruin it. It's like a nice candle. I don't burn my beautiful candles, just the dollar store ones. So anyway, thank you so much again for joining us today. I do hope all of the health directors that were able to stay on, we appreciate you taking the time. We know you're busy, schedules are busy, so we just appreciate that. So thank you again. I will hand it back to Vanessa to close us, unless anybody else wants to share.
Wait a few minutes to make sure.
I was just gonna just say a couple of words just to Merle. I just want to really thank you for sharing. It's been a really rough go. Myself, I am Métis ancestry, and so the finding of the children has really hit home just from a personal perspective, just because my grandfather, he never, he wasn't allowed to really admit his Métis ancestry. And you know, having conversations with my mom and my uncles and aunts, hearing the stories and kind of putting everything together in perspective was, you know, they would have been taken away and sent to residential school had they, you know, been recognized as Indigenous. And so it's been really a little bit sobering the last little bit. We have a lot of community members that we're supporting. Our community member, Sasha Eugene, who is a very young leader for our community, she walked 130 kilometers to help bring the spirits home. It was part of her medicine walk, and it was really encouraging to see community members, along with her great-grandparents and her grandmother, walk many kilometers beside her. And so yeah, I just really want to thank you for your words. The medicine was really something I needed to hear. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your kind words and your inspiration today.
You're welcome. I appreciate that so much.
Just give another second or two in case anyone else has anything they'd like to share before we wind up. So, Merle, like Karen was saying, there were some parts where you were talking straight to me. My mother and her 11 siblings are all survivors of residential school. And when I hear the numbers, it's hard to not want to cry and just be thankful that all of her siblings made it out alive. Growing up, she called it boarding school. So in our head, my mom went to boarding school. Everything was great. Her sister, my aunt, who is in her 80s, has a story similar to what you were saying. She saw her sister across the field, and our family, probably like many Native families, were really big on nicknames. So she called her sister by her nickname, and the nun, thinking that she was speaking Native, whacked her across the face with a ruler. And my aunt, to this day, in her 80s, still has a scar on her cheek for calling her sister by her family nickname. So we all have those stories. I want to thank those who shared as well. So I think some of the things we really learned today, we need to give thanks, we need to celebrate, and we need to dream. We need to connect with Mother Earth, the energy of the earth, the moon cycles, cleansing with cold water, connecting with our ceremonies and our traditional medicines to help us get through these tough times. There's many stages of grief and many reasons. You've encouraged us to not hide your pains and emotions, and I'd like to thank you for sharing yours with us today and being vulnerable in that. You've also touched on the importance of education, sustainability, and communication within our communities, and the importance of food, exercise, and laughter to our well-beings. To let go of what's not yours, to practice self-care, and to lean on your community as well as your external partners. You also express the need to balance your work and our personal lives, and to also listen and hold space for those that need to talk. So I want to help you, or thank you, say Clecco, and hold my hands up to you for all of the learnings you shared with us today. So on behalf of the First Nations Health Directors Association, I would like to extend our thanks to Merle for taking her time to present today. I would also like to thank all of you for your participation. And if you have any suggestions or ideas for upcoming webinars that you would like to see, please don't hesitate to email the Secretariat team at fnhda@fnha.ca. I can verify they're all amazing there and will do their best to help you. So until then, take care, enjoy the rest of your day, stay safe and stay well. Chew.
Thank you, Merle.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Merle. Thank you, Vanessa. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Bye, Kareem.
Nicole, are we gonna talk?
Oh, I think she departed. Not real departed, but she left the meeting.
Bye all.
Oh, I guess we're not
bye.
gonna see on.